you can change your address, but if you don't change the consciousness and address the wounds, then you just bring that to the address.
Welcome to the greatest stories never told. My guest today is my boy, Preston Smiles. Preston is a thought leader who's helped millions of people around the world find more freedom and power in their lives. What I think is amazing about Preston is some of the most badass guys I know, people who are leaders in business, leaders in personal development, just badasses in life, seek out Preston to be their leader, to tell them what to do next. And his story is so fascinating. I cannot wait for you to hear it today. Preston Smiles coming up right now. All right, Preston, my man.
What's up,
Thank
bro?
you for coming in.
Yeah.
Bro. Yes. Yeah. So you and I go way back about 2 months of friendship. And I feel like in those couple months, we've become really tight.
Yeah.
And your story, when I first heard it, blew me away. I mean, now you sit here as a guy that some of the most powerful people I know come to for advice and wisdom when they're feeling lost and down and out. But I know that the journey you've taken, all the bumps and bruises along the way, is something that most people wouldn't even be able to wrap their heads around if they didn't hear it. I'm so thrilled that you're going to be sharing it with us today.
Absolutely, man. I'm pumped to be here.
Thanks, man. So let's go way back. Preston, as a child, were you the leader on the playground, or what were you like as a kid?
At home, I was like the sweetest kid you could find. Like, rule follower to a T. And the moment I got outside, I was like an urban terrorist. I was that kid that was throwing rocks, busting windows. I could jump a fence, and I grew up in the South Bay of Los Angeles.
Okay.
So I was born in Compton, California, and then I think we were 5 years old. My parents moved us from Compton to Harbor City.
Okay.
And
to get out of the Compton area?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was one of those kids that was like a city ninja. Like I could. And we would do this, and I had no rules. I grew up in this neighborhood where, and at a time, and you and I are about the same age, where parents weren't afraid to have their kids be outside.
Right, as long as you come home by the time the street lights are on, right?
So I'd be on my freaking GT Performer and my Detour Dyno bike, and I'd be like 20 miles away, like hopping fences and spray painting on the sides of buses. And I was just like this little mini awesome leader. Into basketball, Michael Jordan, the whole thing.
Sounds like you were kind of rebellious.
Yes.
Where did that come from?
Very much so. Very early on, my mom and dad, my mom tells me the story. I didn't even know most of it. I just remember the big traumas. But my mom and dad used to argue about whether I was special needs, whether I had autism or Asperger's or something of that nature. And my dad would say, ain't nothing wrong with that boy. And my mom was like, Preston? Because my dad's name is Preston as well. And eventually she won out and they went and got me tested. And what they could find early on, like 2-3 years old, was that I was like a genius in certain areas from what they can, and like tested off the charts. And in other areas, I was like, I might as well have been basically just born. And I remember they would test me all the way into school. And one of the worst and best things that ever happened to me was, I believe I was in the 2nd or 3rd grade, and we had just come back from recess. And I was with my buddies, and it was like, it was myself, Elliot, and a kid named Brown. And we were like 3 amigos. And we would like run the playground, right? Kickball, tetherball, anything. We were running it, right? And we come back and we go up to the 2nd floor. We go into class, and there's, 30 kids in the class. And I remember seeing the principal and some other people come to like the door and the window. And then they knocked and they spoke to our teacher. And then she said, Preston, can you come with me? And so I get up and start walking over there. thinking maybe my mom's here or I'm in trouble or whatever. And they said, no, grab your stuff. And so I go get my Ninja Turtle backpack and my Trapper Keeper and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what's happening. And they walk me out of the building and they're talking to me. And it's kind of turns into a blur because as they're walking me, I see that they're walking me towards the bungalows. And the bungalows were where, and excuse my French, and I'm only going to speak for how that 7, 8-year-old Preston thought. The bungalows were where the retarded kids were. And so as they're walking me towards the bungalows, I went into like an altered state where I know they were talking to me, but I couldn't hear them. All I kept thinking was, am I retarded? Am I retarded? Am I retarded? Am I stupid? Am I like them? And so we walk up 3 steps and we turn the corner. And then I hear them say, Preston, this is going to be your new class. And these are going to be your classmates. And I look around and there's like 4 kids and they're playing with blocks and they're drooling. Now I'm 7, 8 years old. I'm a fully functioning, like little miniature gangster. And you're telling me, and this is, this is the 80s going into the 90s. And so I get that the California school system has work to do, right? So they leave me in this class, and this becomes my new class. And they don't really explain, and they didn't really understand that I'm dyslexic, and that I learn different than other students. I don't have a standardized brain, so I don't do well on standardized tests. And so fast forward to end of the day, everybody's parents are coming, and I'm walking back to home because I live around the corner with my friends, and nobody talks about it. Nobody says anything, which makes the shame and the guilt even deeper. Because it's now this little secret, like, oh, Preston's stupid, he's less than, and I made up all these stories about myself. And so by the time I was 11, I started smoking weed. I joined a gang. I was doing these things called runouts, where my friends and I would go to liquor stores all around our town. You ever done this?
Don't know anything about that.
Yes.
I've driven the car.
Yes. We'd go in and pretend like we were 20, which we were freaking like 13 and like young, and grab beer and whatever else, and we'd just run out. And so, those are the beginnings. There's some other things that happened. I had a few friends die and get shot and killed, and
In Harbor City.
Yeah.
Oh,
Some of those same friends that I was.
Oh, wow. So was there a lot of gang activity there?
There was. Interestingly enough, though, one story I do want to share that really changed my life forever, and I think it's the reason why I'm sitting in this chair today. And rest in peace to my dad, who died 3 months ago, because this guy really changed the game for me. When I was 11, he caught me smoking weed, and I thought I was going to get in trouble. I was going to get a whooping. Right? This is back in the day. He would take out his belt and beat me, right? So I'm like, yo, I'm done. I'm toast. And he sits me down on the bed, and he says, I want you to know that I don't have any problems with marijuana. It's from the earth. It's a beautiful thing. However, I do want you to look at all the people who smoke weed. Those boys on the corner, some of your uncles. I want you to think about everybody you know who smokes weed, and I want you to tell me whether you want their life or not. Because if you do what they do, you're going to have what they have. And I went to answer, and he said, nope. I want you to think about it. We'll talk tomorrow. And he walked out the room. And I'm like, right? Just think about it. 11 years old, you've been caught smoking weed. In my mind, I'm literally going to be on punishment for 10 years, right? And he just walks out the room. And so I sit there and I think about it. And all night, I think about it. And it's like, at the time, I was clear that I wanted to be in the NBA and I wanted to be this basketball player and this actor. And I started to think about Michael Jordan. It's like, Michael Jordan doesn't smoke weed. So the next day comes and he sits me down and he says, so what do you got? You gonna keep doing it, or what you got? And I said, you know what, Daddy? I'm not gonna do it. And he said, fantastic, that's a great choice. And he leaned in and he said, I want you to know that you're a leader and that you're such a leader that if everybody else is going left, but some part of you says that you need to go right, you'll do it anyway, because that's who you are. And then he let me go. Now fast forward to 15 years old. My buddy Scott calls me. Yo, P, you coming out? Intuitively, the moment he said that, and I didn't even know how to spell the word intuitive, real talk, like I didn't even know what intuition was. Intuitively, when Scott asked me to come out, everything in my body said no. And my dad flashed back into my 15-year-old consciousness, and I said, nah, man, I'm gonna chill. He was like, what? You gonna be a bitch? You not coming out? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm gonna be a bitch tonight. And he's like, yo, we coming to get you. I was like, no, man, I'm not coming. All right, cool. Hang up the phone. 1 hour later, every single person in that blue Astro van that I was in the night before that, and the night before that, and the night before that, every one of them was shot. And Scott and I used to fight over the front seat. You did that when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Shotgun?
Yeah.
Yes. Shotgun, right?
Yeah.
We had all these rules to it. Well, because I didn't go, Scott got shotgun. Rudy was driving, Scott got a shotgun, Emmanuel and a few other people in the back. They pull up to a 7-Eleven in Gardena, California. A disgruntled guy who just got broken up with his girlfriend is sitting in his car with a machine gun. They don't see the machine gun. Scott, being a 16-year-old dummy, both of us are on the basketball team. All of us in the car are on the basketball team at Carson High School. Scott looks over at them. The guy says, what the fuck are you looking at? Scott says, I'm looking at you, bitch. Turns back, talks to Rudy, does whatever they're doing. Guy knocks on the window, machine gun. Shoots him in the head, dies. Shoots Rudy, shoots everybody in the car. Takes off. This was one of the most game-changing moments of my life.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying these stories as much as I am. I want to know from you, who should I interview next? Maybe it's your favorite celebrity, your favorite athlete, your favorite author, or just someone you know who has a story that's never been told before. Comment below, let me know who it is, and then hit that subscribe button so you get notified when I interview the person that you pick.
For many reasons. Survivor's guilt, understanding intuition, moving to Pennsylvania after that to a all-white school where I was the only black person. Like, so many things happened because of that moment. And I'm gonna leave that right there for right now in case you have any questions, but like, that's some of my early childhood. There's so many other things. I was super loved and kissed on and told that I was beautiful and all the other things, and I also had a lot of traumas. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
So how do you even go on after that? You were 15 years old?
Yep, messed me up pretty big time.
So I guess you have to change environments. Then your parents recognized that you needed to change environments. Is that why you were sent to the school?
Yep,
It wasn't like a punishment. It was like, let's get him away from this.
That.
Gotcha.
I reached out, I told my dad, I was so scared. Because you got to think about it, right? Like, any of us, and I've seen people die. I've seen people die bloody deaths. I can tell you another story, even a couple years ago in New York, that changed my life again. But this, you got to think about it. I'm a 15-year-old kid. This is my best friend, the person I'm with every single day. And because of a moment I had at 11 years old, I have the balls and the guts to say, I'm not going to go. And then they all get shot and he dies. There was so much on me and I didn't know how to process it. So I did not cry. Right? At that point, and Craig, you and I grew up in a very similar way in the sense of how the Western culture treats boys. By the time I was 8 years old, I had heard big boys don't cry enough to man up, to not be a little bitch or a little wussy enough to where I didn't know how to cry. Period. My body wouldn't even do it. And so now all these traumas are being stuffed and locked in my body because the body is a living library and it stores everything we've ever been through. Most people try to sit in therapy and talk. But if you do not allow the body to reset, the nervous system to reset like animals do in the wild when they get away from cheetahs and tigers, where they go through breathing techniques and shake, if we don't allow the nervous system to reset, that gets stuck in the body. And then we stack more traumas on top of it. And so I reached out to my dad and I was like, yo, I gotta go. He was like, where do you wanna go? I said, I don't care, just get me out of here. I was so scared, so scared. We would just like do anything. And I would just think, oh, I'm gonna get shot. I'm gonna get shot. And so he sent me to Pennsylvania to his high school sweetheart's house. And I remember getting off the plane. This is before social media. I had never seen her ever in my life. She had never seen me. She had a sign that said Preston on it. I got off the plane. She said, my name is Shirley, and I want you to know I'm going to take care of you. Within a week, I was checked into North Allegheny High School, which was one of the wealthiest high schools in the Pennsylvania area. I remember pulling up, and I know you've seen Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. This is like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in reverse. Because the school I came from, we didn't have books. The lockers would be set on fire. There would be gang wars, like the whole thing. I came from a school that had nothing. And then we pull up in Shirley's white, beat up Nissan Sentra. And as we're pulling up, I'm like, is that the school? Because it looked like a pristine college. And there was a turf football field and everything was beautiful. And all these BMWs and Mercedes were pulling up and these like punky white dudes were jumping out with like great hair. Yeah, the whole thing. Bro, I was like, what is happening? And I will never forget this. I get to the thing and I'm walking through the hallway to the principal's office to find out where my classes are and all that stuff.
And are you seriously the only black dude?
Here's where it gets crazy. So I'm walking, and you know how in high school, like you're in class and then the doors have like a window on the door that you can look out of.
Yeah, and it's like a mesh metal on it.
So I'm walking by all these classes and everyone in the classes are like, yo, like I can see them going like, shut up, right? And I'm like, what the fuck is happening, right? So I get to the principal's office, she sits me down, she's like, you're gonna be in this class, this class. I hear you're on the basketball team at your old school, so we're gonna have you try out with a new team. More than likely you're gonna be on the team, all this stuff. And she says, perfect. Anything else, any questions for me? And I said, yeah, I have one question. And she said, sure, what is it? And I said, is there anyone else at this school that looks like me? And she said, oh, black? No, you're the only black guy in our school. We have a black girl, but you're the only black guy. I said, fantastic, that's good to know. And yeah, I instantly became the most popular dude in school. Within a few weeks, I joined a new gang called Wexford Mafia. And I was in this kid, Brad's BMW, headed to a party. And I was in the back seat. And this was back in the day where everybody used to, and I don't know if you used to drive like this, where you have your seat basically all the way in the back.
Oh yeah, low rider.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're in this,
elbow out the window.
Yes. So we're in this kid's BMW, and they're passing blunts around, and I have a 40 in my lap, and everybody's drinking and smoking, and we're drinking and driving, headed to a party, and his seat is basically in my lap, and I'm in the back seat. And Outkast, Wheels of Steel was going. This are the wheels of steel. And they're passing blunts around. I don't smoke anymore, but I'm drinking. And I'm just looking around and I'm like, yo, this is exactly what I would be doing at my old school. And it dawned on me, and this is why, like, my overarching message is love, right? Because what I realized in that moment at 15 and a half is that underneath all the stories that we have about each other, gay, straight, white, black, Christian, Muslim, Democrat, Republican, whatever, right? Underneath all of that is the one truth, which is love. Everybody's being bombarded by the same media. Everybody's doing the same things, but it's difficult to rise to low expectations. And so I began to see that the kids at my former school were going to jail, that the kids at my new school were going to Yale. And that distinction of like, yo, they're smoking weed, drinking, listening to Outkast, Tupac, and Biggie. They're smoking weed, drinking, listening to Outkast, Tupac, and Biggie. What's the difference? The expectation. These kids are
Expectation.
expected to fail. These kids, oh, this is a phase. Right? And so here I am in the middle, able to see, right? Because that's all you can ever ask for. Awareness comes before choice. Awareness comes before choice. The moment you have awareness, you now have a new choice. Without the awareness of door or doorknob, me trying to get out of this house would be a bloody mess. But the moment I have that, then it opens up an entire new world. And so in that moment, because my friend was shot, because all of these things happened, it was like a crack in like the matrix for me. And I could see straight through it. And there was like this interesting juxtaposition between being angry, because I recognized that the system was set up for me to fail, and then also being grateful that I could see it at 15 and a half. And at that point, I was like a religious person. And so the quote, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do," from the Bible, sort of just like swam through my mind while Outcast is playing and this dude's seat is in my lap. And like, this is like the most surreal moment of my life, right? And so we get to the party, fast forward, I end up going to college. I end up like getting a master's degree. I cheated my way through my undergrad and then decided that I wasn't going to cheat in my master's and got a 4.0 and like a lot. I've lived a lot of lives, bro. Just like you. You've lived a lot of lives.
Man.
I think that's why we like each other. We're both kind of like, yo, you're complex.
Yeah. Wow. So you didn't experience racism. In fact, they thought you were
No,
cool.
they loved me.
Like,
Yeah.
That's interesting. So my junior high school, there was, 3 black guys.
Yeah.
And the grade above mine,
Yeah.
there was this kid, Jamal. He was the most popular kid at school.
Yeah.
He was the guy who could dance. And,
Yeah.
Not to be cliche, but it's true, man. The guy could dance like a motherfucker. He was the best basketball player. It's like, he was the fucking man, Jamal Harris.
that's so
I didn't
good.
even know him. I wasn't cool enough to know him.
Yes.
But I remember.
Shout
that
out
guy.
to Jamal Harris,
Yeah,
bro. Wherever
yeah.
you are out there, we're loving on you.
Yeah, so funny. So, how was your relationship with your dad then when you're living thousands of miles away from your dad?
Yeah, what's interesting is my family is a very independent family. Like the way that everything was set up, like, and maybe it's just circumstance, like they had to work. And so my sister essentially raised me, and my sister was only 5 years older than me. So you can imagine the hell that she went through trying to keep my little double Leo Cancer self like out in the world going apeshit. And so I was already so independent, and there's this deep love that we all have for each other. Like my mom and my sister were texting, and myself were texting yesterday, and we just love each other so much, no matter where we live, wherever we are. And so some people just have that archetype where they can just live anywhere. My dad and I stayed connected, and he ended up falling back to drugs. My dad used to sell drugs. He was a pimp. He was all these things. And then he got a clean job when my sister and I were born.
Oh, but before you were born,
Yes.
he was,
Yes.
man on the streets.
Yes.
Sounds like.
Yep.
Okay.
And then he cleaned it all up when he had us. And then when that happened, and then his wife, who he remarried to, left him, he ended up back on the streets and fell to drugs.
He started doing
Yes.
drugs himself?
Yep.
Did you say he was selling drugs again?
No,
as well?
just doing them. Just
Okay.
doing them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was tough. After my 1 year in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania,
Oh, you only went there a year?
I only went the year because it was so cold. Just think about
That was why you moved back?
Hell yes.
'Cause it was cold.
I was
Okay.
a California kid, and I missed like sunshine and skateboarding and
Yeah.
like being able to be outside and not have giant icicles like hanging from your like driveway. And so I moved back, and I actually moved back with my dad and his wife. And shortly thereafter, she divorced him and left with everything.
So your parents had gotten divorced before
My parents got
this.
divorced when I was 9 years old.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
he remarried.
Yep.
And then you moved back in with him.
Yes.
Because she moved out.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah. And she took everything. She took my baseball card. She took my shoes. She took my bed.
Your shit too?
She took my stuff too, just to pay him back. And which was really messed up. And, you know, divorce can be ugly for a lot of people, but that was like low. And he hit an all-time low. And so just a little backstory about my dad. While he went clean for my sister and I, he also had some side stuff going on, which I don't know exactly what it was, but I grew up essentially rich. So within all of this story, the things that matter to a young kid and like what he can see, everybody in my neighborhood, everybody who ever saw anything was like, yo, you're rich.
Well, you said you had the GT bike,
Yes.
which was the expensive bike. I didn't have one of those. When you said that, I was like,
I had everything, bro. Like my family, between my mom and my dad, and they poured so much into us. And at one point, my dad had 7 BMWs, and he owned houses and
7?
Yep.
At the same time?
At the same time. 325, 535, a 735, 633 CSI. He had, there were so many, right? He was super obsessed with them and like a flashy dude. And it's interesting because, and I'm just doing a caveat here, one of the reasons why I've been so successful and so wealthy is because of how he was. Because I saw that, and I saw that it was all surface, and he lost it all. And so I became in some ways the opposite. And a lot of people have that happen with their parents. If their parents went this way, they go this way. If their
Right.
And so my dad was so flashy that I became the opposite. And as a father and as a husband, like I have a lot more money than I show, and like a lot more things happening because of how my dad was. So those 7 BMWs and all the stuff that he showed, any money he got, he was giving it away. Anything that came into his possession, he was buying me something. I had all the Jordans, all the best clothes, all the best everything. We would take trips all around the world, like the whole thing. I was rich. I grew up as a rich kid inside of a neighborhood that turned into a war zone, that turned into a gang territory, and
So they pulled you out of Compton to go to Harbor City, but Harbor City was
it ended up
just
Harbor City was
bad, or?
was considered middle class, maybe even upper middle class. The problem with Harbor City and across LA was that Bloods and Crips, which was a movie called Colors. Bloods and Crips was a CD that came out.
I remember that city.
And there was another movie that came out, but basically Colors and
Boys in the Hood.
Boys in the Hood,
Society.
Menace to Society. There we go. All of those came out when I was young and impressionable,
Yeah.
and needing a rites of passage, right? So even the work I do with boys and men is I understand psychologically where they are, right? Where they are in their learning to go from boy to man, and to divorce their mother, and to break up with their dad, and to take their own ownership. All of that I had no guidance for. My dad thought that if he just loved on me, my mom the same, if they just loved on me and gave me a bunch of stuff, that I would just miraculously be a good kid. And in some ways they were right, and in a lot of ways they were wrong, because they didn't have that guidance for themselves. And so I grew up as a rich kid in an upper middle class neighborhood that turned into a war zone because all of us, and there was like 30 boys in one neighborhood, all around the same age. This is like a giant posse, right? And then right outside of our neighborhood was the Harbor City Crips and the projects. So that influenced that with music and all the other things, and we turned our neighborhood into a war zone.
And I'm sure someone once in a while will get in beef with the
Yes.
Crips.
Yeah.
And then they try to get the other guys to help them
Yes.
out.
Or the
Yeah.
Crips were recruiting. So like some of my best friends, like Elliot, the guy I mentioned earlier in this story, Elliot is a Harbor City Crip right now. He lives on the streets right now in San Pedro. He is a homeless gang member right now.
It's your age.
Yes, same
Wow.
age as me.
Wow.
I give money to his kids. I help take care of his mother. Like, it's a thing, right?
Wow.
But I'm just sharing with you, like, that's how deep it goes. To this day, my friend is still in the game based on the time frame from which we grew up and what was happening at that time. So that's how much society can influence us, especially as little boys. And so, yeah, my dad lost everything and ended up back on the streets doing drugs. And I went to move with my mother.
Hard drugs, I imagine, wasn't smoking weed.
Crack.
Okay.
Crack cocaine. Yeah. Hard drugs. The kind that destroy your whole life. And that forced me to go live with my mom again, who is amazing and also a super Virgo. And she had remarried a guy who was like a military, like strict guy. And so I go from living with this like out there flashy hippie dad who's like having me listen to the Doors and like, Bob Marley and like do what you want, live the kind of life you want, to moving in with my extremely Virgo mother and her even more staunch military husband. And they're like, you're at home at this time, you make your bed like this, you X, Y, and Z. And we instantly clashed. And he told her, it's either him or me, which is the stupidest thing a guy could say to a mother, because the mother's always going to choose her child. And so she divorced him. We moved to San Pedro, California, to a little tiny apartment. And I joined another crew, a little miniature gang, as you would, but we were a basketball gang. All of us had dreams to go to the NBA. I was the shortest person there. I'm 6'2". Most of them were 6'6", 6'4",
Oh, wow.
6'3". And so we would break into the gyms in the middle of the night and play basketball all night. We'd start at 1 a.m. and at 4, we'd still be playing 2-on-2 full court. And like that turned my life around quite a bit. I went to San Pedro High School. I ended up getting kicked out of the high school because I threatened to kill the basketball coach, which was a whole nother story. I go back to Carson High, the first high school. I barely make it through, but in that time, I apply to go to Southern University. I apply to one college, and one college only, which is the school my sister is going to at this point.
Okay.
I get in, I go live in Louisiana at 17 years old. And
17?
Yep.
So you didn't graduate high school?
I did. I was just
Oh, you
young.
graduated early?
Yeah.
So you went from being dyslexic?
I still was. I still am.
Figuring out how to deal with
Yes.
the curriculum as it was.
Yes. So California has a rule that if somebody is in special education, that they're going to graduate no matter what, as long as they pass a few tests. So they graduated me from high school no matter what.
Wow.
If I would have been under the same rules as you, I probably wouldn't have graduated from high school. But because I was in special education, they passed me. And because I had C's and things like that, and my sister was going to this school, and it's a historically black college, they let me in. And funny enough, you can change your address, but if you don't change the consciousness and address the wounds, then you just bring that to the address. And so I find myself in college and end up cheating in every single class. I had cheat sheets. I would tape them to my arms.
Oh, yeah.
I would put them in the book.
Write the
and then
answers on your hand, all
everything.
that shit. Yeah.
I cheated every single time for 3.5 years, every single test, the whole way through. And I look at that now and I'm like, wow, I was so disillusioned about myself and about my genius that I didn't believe that I was worthy enough. Because I had studied. I would study more than everybody else. But I wouldn't study and then go take the test. I would study and then I would cheat.
Wow.
I would study and then I would make sure. Because my dad.
Just to make sure.
Yep. My dad used to tell me that life is a game. And you got to learn how to play the game. You got to win the game. And so for me, college was this sort of thing where it's like, oh, I'm different than them. Right? I'm fundamentally broken, which is essentially the definition of somebody believing of shame.
But you say you're going to get through this anyway, no
I'm
matter
going to
what
win.
it takes.
Yeah. Because all these people are smart and they know what they're talking about. And they're like, they should be here. I'm an imposter. And so if I'm going to be here as an imposter, I'm going to win.
Were you playing ball?
I was. I actually tried out for this team, Southern University, and I made it to the next round. And then I decided that I didn't want my college. I knew I wasn't going to the NBA.
Okay.
I knew it.
Okay.
And so I was like, I don't want to spend all my college in practice and doing all this stuff if I'm not going to the NBA. So switched it up, became a theater actor and journalism and all that stuff, and ended up getting scholarships to 5 different graduate programs for theater, for acting. And I took a full ride scholarship to Louisiana State University and decided that I wasn't going to cheat at all. I read a book called The Autobiography of Malcolm X, and which is one of the best books I've ever read.
How'd that come across your desk?
The movie came out with Denzel Washington.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And
So you read the book.
yep.
What was in that book that expanded your mind?
He said, you didn't choose your language, you didn't choose your religion, you didn't choose anything. So it made me think, well, what do I choose? And at that point, I remember calling my mom and I said, I'm no longer a Christian. At that point, I was a super Christian. I was like church every 3 days. Like I was,
really?
Oh yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I was like the dude.
All right.
And I remember her through tears saying, just don't turn your back on Jesus. And I was like, I got you, Mom. And of course, I turned my back on Jesus and had to go through my own sort of self-discovery.
Yeah.
And ended up getting scholarships also to go to Colorado Shakespeare Festival and like won all these awards. And I just became this guy that was like this superstar actor in the theater world. And everybody was like, yo, you got to go to LA. You're going to kill it. And so I got out of college. Meanwhile, and this is a really interesting part to it, my dad moved to Louisiana. So he got back on his feet enough to move to Louisiana.
To be closer to you and your sister.
Exactly. He stayed in a hotel, which was known for drugs, and which was highly stressful for me as a 17, 18-year-old person. And then when I got into graduate school, he moved in with me and stayed on my couch.
In Los Angeles?
Nope. This is in graduate school at Louisiana State University.
And how old were you then?
21.
21, your dad's living on your couch?
On my couch.
Wow.
And my friends were coming home and...
Was he like the cool dad with your friends?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, everybody loved him. My dad was wild. My dad was wild. Like, he would tell my friends, pussy is like Michael Jordan. You can't guard it. Which is like, and of course me, like my friends think it's funny. And I'm like, Dad, seriously? And he's like, I'm just telling you, I'm putting you on some game. Pussy is like Michael Jordan. You can't guard it. And I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. To this day, my sister and I still laugh about all the ridiculous stuff that as kids we'd be like, oh.
Tell me more. These are funny.
No, it's like,
tell me more sayings.
oh man, where to begin? I mean, he was just out there. I'll just say that. Really out there and very outspoken.
Was he giving you dating advice?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. But I knew not to take it.
Okay.
Because remember, he taught me and told me at 11 years old that if you do what they do, you're going to get what they get.
And so you saw his example.
Yeah, I was looking at him.
I'm not going to do what he's telling me.
Hell no.
Interesting.
You know, now I'm 20, 21. I can see like, oh, life is interesting. And if I act like him, then I'm going to be sleeping on my son's couch.
Great advice.
Right?
Yeah.
So, nope. I'm not listening to none of that stuff.
All right.
I'm using him as an example of what not to do in certain areas, right? Now I'm in LA, and...
did your dad come with you?
He did. He actually drove across country with me in my Jeep Wrangler, and a funny story about that. I had this 1985 Jeep Wrangler, and it was a soft top. And my dad and I are driving, I think we were in between San Antonio and like whatever is next to San Antonio. And it was just like pitch black. And we're in this 4-cylinder Jeep Wrangler that has like air pockets. And it's winter and it's freezing. So we have we have jackets and all that stuff on, and we're driving, and like pockets of air keep coming in, and like it's like flapping the back up, and like, whatever. And there's this moment where I guess enough air got in there, and it ripped the top all the way back. And it's literally like 20 degrees outside, and it's pitch black, and we're going probably 85 miles per hour.
Oh man.
And so it's like, and we're like, ah, and we like swerve, and I pull over to the side in full darkness. And we're like, you gotta be kidding me. It ripped. So now man. We have to pull it back and like cut holes in it. And then what do? We put some kind of wire in between that hole, and then it was shoestrings. Took our shoestrings out, put it through the hole, and then held it, right? So he's driving, and this is a stick, by the way. So no, I'm driving, he's in the passenger seat. He's holding here, we have socks wrapped around our hands, everything, because it's freezing, right? And I get it in gear, we get on the road, and we start to go, and then I'm holding the other side. And so literally for hours.
Oh man.
Hours.
Oh man.
That's how we drove back. And I will never forget that, because it was like one of those funny like bonding moments between my dad and I. Were like, what the hell is happening right now? Yeah, it's so interesting, because my dad was always such a car guy, and I just traded in my Tesla and got this 2020 like Escalade, and when I was buying it, I was like, you know what, he would love this. It just made me miss my dad, man.
Yeah.
We always get the parents we need, and to teach us, to push us, to whatever it is. And I'm just so grateful for him and my mom. So yeah, it's been rough. Just wanting to call.
Yeah.
Wanting to hear his voice, and
yeah.
The holidays come around, and it's like, wow, this would be the time where he'd be getting drunk and like starting fights with people and like the whole thing. And I miss that, like,
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys moved to LA. Were you thinking you were going to be
a big time actor?
Yeah.
Yes, I was. And I ended up getting, the first job I got was at Abercrombie. And this was back in the day when Abercrombie was huge.
Yeah.
And I was like pretty muscle bound at that point.
I think Daniel Day-Lewis started at Abercrombie.
Did he?
Actually, no.
Yeah. I'm like, what? Okay. Thanks, Craig. That's jacked up, dude. No, I was like pretty muscly back then, and very concerned with my outer appearance. And so they were like, oh yeah, you're going to be one of the guys in the front with the shirt off.
Yeah.
And so they greased me all up in the back, and then I'd go stand in the front and like pull my pants basically down to my pubic hairs.
So you're basically a stripper.
Yeah, exactly. I really was. Yeah. And they paid us like $30 an hour, which was amazing for freaking for 2005. This is 2005.
Gotcha.
And
do you think I could get away with that today?
No, they get lawsuits up the yin yang. Like, there's so much. Interestingly enough,
it's wilder that a mainstream store in a mall would have topless models. Did they have women out there as well?
Bathing suits.
In bathing suits in front of the store. That would just get eaten up today.
It would, easily. I mean, they had a lot of lawsuits.
They did even then. Okay.
Yeah, they had quite a few. But
store's still around. I just
still
saw
around.
Century City Mall last night.
Exactly. They're still, but no, it's not popular anymore like it used to be. But they're still pumping.
So you're standing out there, shirtless, and you're like, "Man, I need to get into personal development."
No, definitely not. Okay. That was a job in between me finding a manager and being an actor and all that stuff. And funny enough, if you can't tell by now, my personality is pretty out there. And they wanted me to stand there and be like sexy and smoldering, but my personality doesn't allow for that. And so I was playing games and like high-fiving Asian tourists and like just making it this huge scene and playful and all this stuff. And funny enough, there was a woman who saw that and was like, my son is an actor and his manager would love you. Do you have a manager? And I said, I don't. I said, I'd love to meet her. And so made the connection, and I ended up signing with this woman. And then she helped me get agents, and then Wilhelmina, which was a top modeling agency, still a top modeling agency, I booked a job through an acting agent, and they had a bunch of Wilhelmina models on there, and one of the agents saw me and was like, do you have a modeling agency? So essentially I had like 7 agencies at one point, like legit commercial modeling, commercial print, like it was like theatrical, like everything. And I was going out, I was auditioning, I was booking stuff, the whole thing. And I started to feel these crazy heart palpitations. And I never go to the doctor, I never get sick. I'm one of those people that could go 10 years without getting sick. And I was like, that's kind of weird. And I told a few people. And then a few days go by and I told my mom, and she was like, boy, you better go to the hospital or get a doctor's appointment. So she sets up a doctor's appointment. I go see the doctor. She immediately says, you need to see a cardiologist. This is a problem. So I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, today. You need to go now. So, okay. So I go to the cardiologist's office, and I'm sitting in this waiting room, and there's like 55 and 70-year-olds next to me. And I'm like, I'm 25. I shouldn't be here. But, who knows? Talk to him. He sets up this machine that I'm supposed to carry around for 48 hours, I think. Monitor my heart, does a bunch of tests, all the stuff. I come back 2 days later, and he says, he asked me 2 questions, changed my life forever. He said, what are your stress levels? And what's your diet like? And I said, stress levels? I don't understand what you mean. What is stress levels? So I'm 25, I'm a kid. I don't know what you mean by that. And he said, well, tell me about your life. And I said, well, I got to make it as an actor. So I got to save my family. And I make sure my dad doesn't overdose. And he said, how long have you been thinking like that? I said, pretty much my whole life. And he said, young man, you're highly stressed out. It's like that by itself could cause your heart to break down. And he said, tell me about your diet. What do you eat? I said, I eat food. He said, tell me about food. What do you eat? I said, I eat McDonald's pretty much every day. Sometimes 2 times a day. Maybe Popeyes, maybe Jack in the Box. When I was in college, which was, undergrad and graduate school, they had a George Foreman grill, so I'd have grilled chicken, and then I'd have broccoli with cheese all over it, or I'd have this stuff called Raising Cane's, which was like this chicken and French fries. Drink a little bit here and there, and, sloppy joes, and, that's it, food. And he leaned in and he said, young man, that's not food. And I said, what do you mean that's not food? It's on the commercials, doc, it's food. What do you mean it's not food? And he said, it's not food, that's genetically modified. That's not actually food. There's no nutrition in what you're eating. And I said, what are you talking about, man? It's food. There's commercials running every day. My whole family, everybody I know eats like that. What are you talking about? And he said, as a doctor, I'm going to give you some pills that you're probably going to have to take for the rest of your life. But as a father and as a concerned citizen, I want you to look into your stress levels and your diet. He sent me home with a prescription. Of course, I didn't want to die because my grandmother died from heart disease. And like at least, I think 3 to 4 other people in my family. Right? This was a prevalent thing. At the time, I didn't know it's not genetic. It's just because everybody stressed the same and ate the same. And so I go home, I'm devastated. I'm scared, I'm mad. I tell my girlfriend at the time, and I get the prescription, I take the pills, and I think it was 2-3 days later, my girlfriend came back over, and she said, hey, my godmom wants you to come to the house. Can you come? I said, yeah, of course. What for? She said, she just wants to share something with you. I said, okay. She said, so I get there, and she says, hey, Preston, I know you're dyslexic, and I know you don't read, but there's this book called Ask and It Is Given by Jerry and Esther Hicks. And I think that this would be really helpful for what's going on with your heart and everything. I was so desperate. And I was like, I'll take it. And I remember, I think I went to a park down the street and I sat down and I remember reading the first few pages and it said, your thoughts become things and you create your own reality. Now I'm 25 years old and I've never, ever, ever, ever heard those words said, repeated, anything. I've been to college, I've been to graduate school, I hang out with educated people. No one has ever said, your thoughts become things and you create your own reality. And so I'm looking at this book and I'm like, what? And I slammed the book closed and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I opened the book again and I'm like, what else is here? And so now I'm starting to fill my cup and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And it's like boom, 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 boom. Like the first time you watch a conspiracy theory movie, it's like literally I felt like Neo in the Matrix. I'm in the chair like, yes. And I'm just downloading like, what? That makes so much sense. And like the whole thing starts to unfold. 2 weeks later, The Secret comes out. And I'm like, what is this? I watched that. Law of Attraction, same thing. Holy shit. Oh, the same person is in that movie. I instantly go on a mission. I become an angry vegan. I literally change everything. And I voraciously start to read everything I get my hands on. 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, anything I can get my hands on. She tells me about this spiritual center called Agape, where this guy named Michael Beckwith, who ended up marrying my wife. I spoke to him yesterday. He became my mentor, right? So, and I'm gonna finish this story. I begin to fill my cup in such a way that the heart palpitations go away. And I decide that I'm not taking pills ever again. So I throw the pills away and my skin changes. I'm a little bit taller, I'm a little bit stronger. My voice is like, everything changes just because I'm understanding these principles and these laws that have been withheld from the people. Now it's common practice. It's every day. Everybody talks about personal development now. But at this point, didn't exist. Right?
But now you were in control.
Yes, exactly. So word gets out around Hollywood that Preston has become this like black Buddha, right? Everybody's like, yo, you going through something, you going through a breakup, go to pee, you know. And
really?
Yes.
Oh shit.
Yes.
Okay.
So I turned into this like life coach dude without knowing that that's what it was. And so there was a director at my house one day and he was going through my books and he's like, you know, P, I think it's really interesting that you have all these books on spirituality and success and law of attraction and all this stuff in personal development, but you keep saying you're an actor. Like, why do you do that? Like, it's clear that this is what you love. And I was like, I think you're right. I think maybe a month later, I started my YouTube channel called Questions with Preston. And maybe first year, I'd get like 22, 57 views, but it'd be like 10 comments. And it'd be like, hello from the Netherlands. Thank you so much. This is changing my life. Like it was like, hello from South Africa. Like literally the whole world.
Yeah.
And after that year, the views started to go to like 300, 400, 500. And I joined this new speaker crew of these guys who were speaking at high schools. And I would just go speak for free. I was still an actor. I was on Entourage. I was booking commercials nonstop. I was killing it, right? I was modeling jobs, Target, huge posters, like billboards, the whole thing. I was murdering it. And yet, I was using these principles, right? So I was understanding that the key to living was giving. I was understanding that when I had an attitude of gratitude and I was operating from deep gratitude, that frequency-wise, I became a magnet for more of that. And so I was using these principles to book these jobs and do these things. And then I was doing free talks and all this stuff. And then a friend mentioned this thing called Burning Man. And there's a few stories right in this little pocket. And I swear this is like the end kind of, and also the beginning. my friend mentions Burning Man, and I decide I'm going to go. And I go by myself. And it blows me.
By yourself?
By myself. Blows me to pieces. Changes my life forever. Because I see what happens when a bunch of people choose and decide that they're going to just decide that love is their way of being with each other and with their art and with everything. And they were so self-expressed and naked and fashion and everything. And just everything was happening. I was like, yo, this is a whole other world. I still feel like that. I've gone to Burning Man for 9 years in a row.
Oh, wow.
And I still feel like that.
Yeah.
I come back from Burning Man and I tell some friends, I'm taking you guys next year. And in between that time, there's all these school shootings. And there's one that happens at Sandy Hook, right, the elementary school. And I had been talking with my friends about creating this thing called the Love Mob. And the Love Mob was going to be organized acts of love, giant flash mobs all over the US, all over LA. And the Sandy Hook school shooting happened, and I said, you know what? The time is now. I don't care if we're ready. I don't care if we have any branding. I don't care if we have anything. The time is now. I put up a Facebook event. I told everybody, yo, if you believe in love, if you believe in celebrating life for those kids, show up on Hollywood and Highland on this day. Bro, I hope you guys use the B-roll because this is on the internet over this while I'm talking this so you can see how big it was. 1,000 people showed up.
Damn.
This is before I had no followers. I had nothing. 1,000 people showed up. Word of mouth. Everybody just kept telling everybody, yo, there's this dude, Preston, Love Mob, let's go. They shut down Hollywood and Highland. Helicopters, police, the whole thing. We sing the Beatles song. All you need is love, love. Whole street singing that, walking down the street. Somebody picks me up, puts me on their shoulders. I had a sign that said, this is for those kids. And you can find this on the internet, the whole thing. And that was like the beginning, like the true beginning of me leaning into this as a career, into this as a thing, as a calling. And I recognized that I was thrust into leadership when I didn't want to be a leader like that. I just wanted to give. I just wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make an impact. It wasn't about me. It was about them. It was about the celebration. It was about love as a lifestyle. It was about us getting in the streets and stop talking about it and be about it. And it just ended up being this movement. And so everybody said, when's the next one? And I said, my dad used to be homeless. Let's go to Skid Row. We're going to do something called Just Because, or Just Be Cause. Be cause and create an effect. We're going to throw a party, a block party at Skid Row, which is this huge homeless encampment. Did it? 800 people showed up. Michael Beckwith, Marianne Williamson, all these different people showed up. Okay. They want you to speak, Preston. Talk about it. Okay. Videos. Awesome. Okay. Then when's the next one? What's next? Oh, we're going to do this thing called The Beat, a 300-person interactive jam session with all the artists from all over LA, horns, drums, art, everything. Warehouse, downtown. 500 people showed up. Beckwith, Marianne Williamson, all these people. A guy named Freeman Michaels showed up. He said, I'm a part of this thing called ATL, which Jack Canfield started. I think you would be a perfect candidate for this. Freeman nominates me to ATL. I get into it. The first day of this, and these are leaders from all over the world, people like Lynn Twist and Soul of Money and all the artists, all the people that all of us look up to, right? Men Are From Mars, John Gray, like huge people are in this thing. And I'm one of the youngest ones there. First day, I get there like a scared kid at school, and everybody's eating lunch in this like beautiful like ballroom thing. And I'm like, where do I sit? Right? Where do I sit? I don't know anyone. And I see this guy by himself, and I said, you know what, Pete, this is not about you. Go sit with that guy. I sit down with him. I start talking to him. He says his name is Bruce. I said, Preston. He's like, what's your deal, Pete? I said, like everybody is like really hyped on Lil Wayne right now. So if there's going to be a Lil Wayne, there has to be a Little Preston. There has to be something else and someone else they can look to. He said, I love that, man. So what are you up to? He said, I manage this woman named Lissa Rankin, who's this TED speaker and this doctor, like book writer, like huge person. I said, awesome, man. Well, really nice to meet you. Here's my email. Think nothing of it. 2 weeks later, I get a message from Simon & Schuster and Bruce. Said, hey, I was speaking to Bruce and he said that you were potentially writing a book. And he said you were a stand-up young man and you cared deeply and I'd love to have a conversation with you. Get on a call that day. She says, what are you thinking? I said, I have a book called Love Louder, 33 Ways to Amplify Your Life. Because I believe that when you amplify your love, you automatically amplify your life. I am the living embodiment of that. I would not be here today. My heart would have stopped if I didn't amplify my love. And so she says, I'd love for you to come to New York and meet everybody at Simon & Schuster. She said, I noticed that you have this wife. It was my girlfriend at the time. I noticed you have this girlfriend in some of your videos. What's her deal? I said, oh, she's amazing. Her name's Alexi Panos, X, Y, and Z. She says, well, could we talk to her too? I said, of course you can. Can you guys both come to New York? Yes, we can. We fly to New York a few weeks later. They meet us. They say, 3-book deal, done. So we write Now or Never. I write Love Louder. She writes 50 Ways to Yay. We fly to Bali. We write the whole thing. Bro, my life has been nuts. I'm gonna leave it at that and let some space happen. But yes.
Wow.
A lot.
Wow. Okay. Man, fascinating and such a journey. And your heart literally would have stopped if you would have done this shit. So if someone's out there listening to this right now, and they're in a place where they've been stuck in the same routines, maybe eating the same crap, maybe finding themselves doing the same crap, and having a hard time pulling themselves out.
Yes.
What would you say to that person?
I'd say congratulations. I'd say congratulations because of how you set that up. Meaning, if they are even in the thought frame of how do I pull myself out, it's already begun. There is a force, call it Jesus, call it God, call it Buddha, call it Krishna, call it whatever we want, call it source intelligence. There is something that moves ahead of us when we make decisions. We are threefold beings, body, mind, and soul. When all three are aligned, when the body says, I'm done, when the mind says, I'm done, and the soul says, you're definitely done, that is a power punch. That is, it reverberates throughout the universe and it will begin to make a way out of no way. So, congratulations. Next step, find somebody to support you in that. Because community is the new money. You are where you are not because of yourself, but because you had people reflecting and holding you. I am where I am, not because of myself, but because I had people holding me. I allowed myself to be coached, to be held accountable. So, congratulations. Find somebody and begin to allow yourself to dream and think outside of what your current paradigm has had you thinking. So decide, and I teach my clients this all the time, you got to define it before you begin to design it. And so define what success, define what it is, right? There's one thing to just want to get out. There's a whole nother to decide that you're going to have the type of life that you've dreamed about. Well, that will require some dreaming. So dream, play. When people come to me and they say that they're, really down and out, or they're depressed or whatever, I remind them that we are linguistic beings and we build worlds with our language. So instead of speaking into existence that I am depressed, I remind them to speak about it as if it is passing through. So I'm experiencing a little depression, a little sadness, a little whatever.
That's the language that you recommend. I'm experiencing this.
Yes.
I am not this. I'm not depressed.
Boom.
You say, I'm experiencing a little depression.
Yes. Or I'm allowing.
I'm experiencing a little sadness.
That.
I'm experiencing little feelings of unworthiness.
There we go.
Not say I'm unworthy.
Yes. Because everything on our planet is always moving, shifting, and changing. There is nothing that is standing still. And so when someone says I'm stuck, it's a lie. Nothing's stuck. It's always moving, shifting, and changing. And yet the God we serve, the universe we live in, the laws that we live by is only a yes button. It only says yes. So if I say, why am I so fat? Google, God has to answer that. If I type, why am I so fat? Why am I so ugly? Why am I so unworthy? Why does nothing ever work for me? Google has to answer that. It has to send you pages of why that is true. Now, if I type in there, I am so extremely blessed. Why am I so blessed? Right? If I type in there, if I declare and affirm that this is the best year, month, life, that I am powerful beyond measure, then it has to say yes. Period. This is the law of command. And
Amen.
Because everything is circulating, it has to come back over and over and over again. Because we don't get what we want. We get and experience what we are in any given moment and what we allow. Right? People come to me all the time. They say, how do I become a good coach? How do I become? And I say, it's not becoming, it's revealing. How do you reveal? Will you allow yourself to reveal the magic, the beauty, the joy, the play, the harmony that's already here? It already existed. Society beat it out of you, but not all the way out. There's a part of each and every one of us that's never been hurt, harmed, or endangered. There's a part of me that's still pure and so much light. And if I can just access some of it, right? Because all we need is just ching, just a little crack, just a little bit of light to come out for that to open up the gates.
Yeah. Fucking A!
Let's go, bro. Let's go.
Man, rewind this shit
Yes.
and listen to that. Take some fucking notes, because that last little thing has got my head spinning, man. Wow, so powerful. I mean,
Thank you, man.
and there's so many ways in everyone's life that they could take what you just said and apply it
Yes.
to different aspects, to relationship,
Yes.
to wealth, to their self-confidence,
Yes.
to the way they relate with their family,
100%.
fixing their bad habits, placing in new habits,
Yes.
transforming their health.
Yes.
You just gave like the roadmap, man, like the 5-minute roadmap. They just need to apply what you just said.
Appreciate that.
Preston, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, man.
Really
Absolutely.
appreciate you sharing this.
This is
What's the
awesome.
best place for people to get more of you? Because I know anyone who has just been through that is going to be wanting to figure out how they can go even deeper.
Yeah, man. PrestonSmiles.com. At Preston Smiles on all of social media.
Preston Smiles, and you do these transformation workshops.
Yes.
I've seen the results people have.
Yes.
You get someone in a room for, 3 days?
Yeah.
And they walk out a different person.
100%.
I mean, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why you are the guy that the coaches come to. And now you're actually showing coaches how they can improve their businesses as well, as
Yes.
you've been incredibly successful with your business.
Yes.
So people are just getting started out in coaching.
Yes.
And they want to learn how to monetize that and build a successful business that's also impacting many, many people.
Yeah.
You're now offering some training on how to do that.
Yes, indeed. It's
Amazing.
called Kaboom Coaching.
My man, we're going to have to do this again.
Yeah,
Because
for
there's
sure.
so much deeper we can go on so many things. And you just hit them so hard. So thank you so
Thank
much,
you, bro.
man.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Love you, bro.
Love you.
Thanks so much for watching. If you want to hear a story that's even wilder than that one, click here. You only have 5 seconds though. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!